Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Making a Difference in Mental Health. I'm your host, Danielle.
I'm your co-host, Wendy.
This is our final episode of season 3.
Wow. Can you believe we've done 3 seasons of this? Wow.
I know. And each time it's been something new. It's been something interesting. We've revisited some things too. I have just really enjoyed this particular season and a few episodes. And that's what we're going to really talk about today. We're going to do a summary of the entire season.
Right. And it's in our new studio as well. So that makes it even more special.
Yeah. And that's how we started out season 3 in the new studio. It was so exciting. From the beginning, we had like a little before and after,
right,
to show everyone. And I think when we have had live people in the studio, they've been really impressed and like, wow, this looks really great. And we were excited too, just as excited.
Yep. And so I guess we'll kick it off in our new studio. This is our season 3 finale. And we're going to just summarize some of the special moments that we had during the season. So we kicked it off, I believe, with Jonathan. Jonathan England is our prescriber in our Baltimore Carroll offices. And he joined us to talk about sleep. Do you remember that?
I do, because I need to get a lot of it still.
Same here.
I do.
Yeah, he talked about the importance of it. It's such a simple concept, but many people don't get enough sleep. And when you don't get enough sleep, that leads to some mental health concerns that develop over time. And so he was, I think, talked about things like having a sleep plan, if you recall. Picking a time to go to sleep every day, turning off devices, right? We all get caught up in ourselves and we're on social media, in our iPads and computers, and just the light itself that's used on these devices is not really good. And it interferes with the pattern that you're trying to develop. So it has to be planful.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I talked about too, with even, being in bed with your device and the time that it takes for your mind to kind of just shut down and settle down, and being really strict with the schedule for yourself. Because like you said, it does lend to either challenges with mental health, with whether it's like sleeping, exhaustion, which might lead to some type of anxiety or maybe depressed mood, because just not being able to transition or to function. So yeah, sleep is important. And this is still a goal that I
think all of us will have to achieve.
But
especially important with the kiddos, like getting them to regulate. And part of that big regulation is getting a good sleep pattern. We're going back to school. And so I know, it's a big shift from summertime, staying up late, hanging out, having fun, to like, got to get back on your regiment so that you can be ready for school. So it was a really good conversation and a nice reminder to everyone that you just have to pay attention to your sleep. Okay, so then we wanted to highlight Metagan. And we talked with Udoka, who's one of our behavioral health therapists here at the Greenbelt site. And we wanted to get his take on men in depression. And I think that was a really powerful conversation. I think it's just powerful in the title, Men in Depression, Men in Mental Health. No one talks about it. So you and I wanted to talk about it.
Yes, and I will say that was probably one of our greatest episode, in the sense of people rewatching it. We've had several highlights from the conversation. Or it's okay to talk about and discuss mental health from the range of emotions, from, either whether it's sadness, depressed mood, or, just talking about manhood in itself.
I think my takeaway from it was it's okay to be vulnerable and still be manly, if you will. Like, it doesn't take away from your manhood to express those ranges of emotions and be vulnerable and seek help. I think that was a big thing. Men need to seek help. It doesn't diminish. I think it's coming from for me, a point of strength when you're able to seek help as a man.
Right. And so he's one of our kind of like a unicorn therapist, in the sense also that he is a man of color. And I think that was impactful as well. To be able to see a man of color who also can represent a specific population. And he even spoke and kind of self-disclosed a little bit of some things that he needed to work through as well. And so I think that's a good representation from just himself, and then also the profession.
Absolutely. So that was something that you and I need to think about, or to introduce more topics in our podcast that will speak to men. Men are important, so we don't want to leave them out. It's easy for us as women to go to women and to go to issues with women in color and all of that, but we want to bring in some more conversation with men. So that was a well-needed episode, and I think a lot of our audience members really enjoyed it. As you said, a lot of likes and comments. So
across all social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and we're excited to possibly have him back for next season. But it's just a good conversation to have about men and mental health.
Right. Absolutely. So then we moved on to we like to highlight our staff members in ABH, and so one of the therapists that we highlighted was Molly Hennessy, and Molly has a very particular skill and interest, and that is working with the population that is diagnosed with autism, and so it was a great conversation to hear, how she got into the field.
Right.
And how she wanted to, bring her knowledge here to ABH and be of some resource. And she was actually very helpful with one of my therapists here, who came across a child who had been not quite sure if it's autism or on the spectrum, but, great to kind of talk to Molly and bounce off ideas and things. So it was really a pleasure to have her. Do you recall anything special, Danielle?
I recall she was able to, I believe she was interning, and then she transitioned as a therapist here at Advanced Behavioral Health. And I do like the fact that some of the clinicians, the counselors, the therapists that we highlight, they have a specific skill set, as you said, or a specific area of interest, and it does aid to supporting our other colleagues who may either have clients that are symptomatic of some of the specialties, or you can just inquire about the skills and the passions that our clinicians here have, and Molly was one of them, and she was so bright and bubbly and excited.
Very good energy, very good energy, and I think it just gives our agency ABH some depth into a lot of clinical issues that people have, because we have so many clinicians who like to specialize and have specific interests, and this is a place where that can grow. And so pleasure to have Molly. She was just a ball of energy, and we thank her for coming on the podcast. Okay. Yeah, let's see. So many.
I know.
Going through it. So then we had our prescriber from the Frederick office, Dr. Verma. And Dr. Verma came on to speak about ADD and ADHD, which is, my request, because it's such a hot topic.
Right.
And everybody wants to give kids these diagnoses. And so we just wanted to kind of unpack that. And also let people know that there's hope, even if you have this disorder, or diagnosis, that you can still go on and live a fulfilled life.
Right. And I liked, again, we have self-disclosure from time to time. Dr. Verma also gave her experiences, information on her experiences about ADD, and then also just some clarification, some psychoeducation for those. Sometimes we hear ADD, ADHD, and it's kind of like a buzzword, or it's kind of like, okay, well, this one has that, or without having the education and the background and understand the symptomology and even the duration. I know it can get kind of clinically, but that's exactly what she did, even for our lay people and people who just kind of watch, who are curious about ADHD.
I think she stressed having the appropriate assessment.
Right.
That was what was really important, because, you and I talked a lot about how this diagnosis, the symptoms can just look like basic trauma symptoms. So you really have to have a thorough assessment to really kind of isolate whether or not a child has this condition or not. So she unpacked that really well, and we thank her for that. I think it gave our listening audience some insight about ADD and ADHD.
Yep. And so I could take over for a little bit. We had a lady, Magdalena Minna, who came on, and she was actually from our previous season. So we were excited to have her back, and last time we were in the thick of Roe v. Wade, right?
Roe v. Wade.
And that was last season. Not sure when you're watching this now, but this was in 2022 when we had her on the first time.
Right.
And we were in the thick of the Roe v. Wade conversation and ultimate decision. And so we wanted to have her to come back to kind of follow up, see where she was and see what she was doing.
I think she was in the DR.
She was in the DR, and we kind of touched on that a little bit as well. But to transition then from the impact and the results of Roe to talking about women and trauma, and also from her perspective, what she has done in the field,
right,
in the line of work of supporting women who have experienced trauma.
Right. She has that private practice in the Montgomery County area, in Silver Spring. And what I always take away, you'll laugh, self-care.
Yeah.
That was a big takeaway from that conversation. Is women, we want to do everything. We're superhuman beings, but really we're not. And when we don't put ourselves first, then we can suffer.
Right.
So part of that conversation was, self-care, in dealing with all the things that we have to deal with, and even the aftermath of Roe. I mean, that was a tough blow to a lot of women, in terms of having control and power and being able to control their destiny and so forth and so on. So good conversation. We like her. She's very pro-woman,
yeah,
but a very great practice, and it was good for her to follow.
Yeah. And so then we also had Miguel and Manuel.
Manuel,
but
Manny, yes.
But Manny, yes, to come in to talk about bullying. And I think that was one of our longer episodes, but needed. And I like the fact again that this time we brought men into the studio
again,
right?
Yes,
to talk about their impact in the community for youth. And I think it's good they are also men of color who are representations of what it looks like to be positive, what it looks like to impact, what it looks like to support youth who may be going through a number of challenges and issues, and they're here with our mentoring program.
Yeah, there are mentors, and to be in this field of mental health as very young men of color, great role model for the youth that we deal with through our GMY program here in APH. So have to do a part 2.
Yeah, we definitely will have to do a part 2 because it was a good conversation. And this time, I think this is the first time we've had double. Is it? Well, it might not be the first time we had double guests, but double guests definitely in the studio.
And
they were brothers. And that's
brothers.
The thing; they're feeding off of each other, one to another. Their similar experiences. They even kind of did some more self-disclosure about them growing up and wanting to be an example for the youth that they mentor. And so I definitely think we should have a part 2 on that conversation.
Right. And bullying is such a hot topic. I mean, it's unfortunately not going away with social media and all of that. So we need to stay focused on the bullying as part of mental health continued discussion.
Right. So, right. And our next episode, which I think was probably one of my favorite episodes, is when we went live.
Yes, we were live.
We finally went live, and we went into the field, and we had a mental health walk at High Point High School. It was such a great day.
It was.
I'm not sure if it was supposed to rain that day or not.
And it didn't. The sun came out when the walks were starting.
It was a beautiful day. It was
parents and children were present.
Yes.
The school was just super hyped, and we had good music. They had good food. It was actually one of my favorite podcast moments too. We do Danielle, I do like to go live. So we'll have to find some more spaces where we can come to you all live and in the moment. And so I enjoyed our interview with the young man who had just Andreas, absolutely, who just graduated, and just wanted to hear from his perspective on a really pretty sunny day on a Saturday. Why would you come to your school and do a mental health walk? And he was just kind of sharing how important it is that that we as clinicians pay attention to kids and really listen to kids, because mental health is real for them. and he just wanted to come and walk and show his support. And we were just super excited. He was so nervous. He was so cute,
but
though,
he did so well.
He did amazing. He did amazing, and I hope I made him feel at ease when we did our quick interview. But it was nice to hear from someone who that it, you know,
advocating for mental health, it's impactful. And then there were different components and aspects of mental health. So of course we talked about mental health. We had plenty of resources and psychoeducation, but we also got physical. They got physical. There was movement. There was yoga. It was a mental health walk. So I think the total round were two 1 mile walks. So 2 miles. And there were kids of all ages. Our little Stella mascot, Stella from Advanced Behavioral Health. From she is the little one of one of our clinicians
at High Point.
Alex. It was such a great day, and we were glad to just be there to support the young people, the people 18 and under there walking and
who came out
on behalf to advocate for themselves for mental health. So I think that was probably
a fun partnership. I think this was the annual, so it was the first one that High Point has done, and so we signed up to do it again next year. It's really fun. So you'll see me and Danielle live.
I love it. I love going live. We got to find some more places to go.
Live. So we're searching always. So that was fun. So,
and then our next episode was we had Chelsea with us, and she's also another visitor from
the past season,
the previous season. At the time, she was in training, I think, to be certified for PMT, which is parenting management training. And this time she's certified. She gave us some really good tips. I was like taking mental notes of how to help and support parents with a different type of parenting style or corrective to correct behaviors, but from a different way. I
think it was from a space of more like nurturing and kindness as opposed to a punitive space. And so a lot of what her skills that she talked about and what she teaches, definitely you could take to community schools and implement them. In the schools with the parents. She did share that she does go to schools as well. And so much needed training. We'll have to get her actually to do a training. But nice return. We were so proud of her to finally get her certification in this and really run with this. She's very passionate about this modality for parents, and I think it really, really works.
Yeah, and I will say that Chelsea and Udoka are in the running for the most viewed episodes that we've had this season and last season as well. Udoka wasn't part of last season, but that PMT seemed to be something that
resonated with people.
That resonated with people.
Makes sense. She explained it really well. And I think, definitely that's another return to just reinforce the concepts about PMT. Right. And hopefully parents who listen, can take notes, practice with their children and walk away with some kind of change. So we were happy to have her back.
Yeah. And last but certainly not least, the episode I think that we actually talked about first, but it ended up being the last episode and very impactful, probably one of our more dense information-filled topics of radicalization. And it happened to be my friend Tanya Wagner, who's an excellent clinician and has her own practice. But she was the right one to have the conversation with, to talk about radicalization from, sometimes we were speaking from a political space, a psycho educational space of how radicalization starts. Wendy brought her research to the stage.
So these, assessments, and I was just so fascinated by this is just a whole kind of manual on how to I think law agencies deal with people that they think are being radicalized in a kind of violent and serious way. So yes, it touched my investigative history. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that research and data to the conversation. But again, it was more from a therapeutic space. How do we help people? People have asked me, how do you kind of, what's the word I want to use? Disrupt that cycle. And how do you start to help somebody? And it's no easy task, I'll say. But I think one of the things I remember Tanya talking about is just like being present and giving like good facts that people can, I think, research on their own.
Right. And just, to recap even how we started, again, this was a conversation that we wanted to have. This was an episode that we wanted to have. And it's been going on, just the ideas, the thoughts of radicalization, the aftermath of radicalization, partly from a political space. When we first started, I believe it might have been season 2 or mid-season 2, we had January 6th. And from there, it's like, we need to have this conversation. And by the end of our podcast for season 3, we've had it. And we are in August of 2023. And the 45th president of the United States has just had a mugshot done. And so that was what sparked us wanting to view radicalization. But
but it also affects the clients that we have that might be trafficked. It affected you and I on a personal level as well. And then as I said earlier, people would ask me, because they know clinician, like, what do you do with this? Like, how do I help a family member? How do I deal with a family member who's gotten caught up in whatever and has become radicalized about not only politics, but anything, any average thing that, people get caught up in. And it's good to know. I mean, Tanya talking about just traits. Like, if you're a person that's vulnerable, you could be a target. If you're a person that doesn't have community and friends, you can be targeted. And so, it's helping us to, help people pay attention to those who are loners, who don't have people in their tribe, me, my people, to talk with, and the isolation itself helps to spark ideas and create a framework that may not just be in reality, but again, it's the perfect kind of person that can be subjected to radicalization.
And that's why we, as clinicians, therapists, counselors, those who want to advocate for clients, the ones that we support that may, be subject to some of those things, we want to always make sure that we're providing, education and insight for you. And
so, and I think, like I said, the best takeaway is, we've been in a time where everybody's in their little silos, and, that proves can be dangerous, detrimental to just human beings, and period, because we are creatures of being nurtured and loved and cared, and social creatures. And so when you start isolating and being in your own silos, it's just a nice recipe for something like this to happen. So I just, want our audience members to really just pay attention to that, and reach out, communicate to people that you feel might be headed down that path, and kind of bring them into your tribe. That's my thoughts.
So this actually wraps up the entire summary for season 3. Again, it has been a great journey. Again, I cannot believe that we are
here
completing another season, a 3rd season of Making a Difference in Mental Health. It's always wonderful, and we are excited about season 4. There's so many more things to come.
So many more things to see, so many more things to, talk about. As we said, hopefully we're in the community a little bit more in season 4. And, we're going to really think about conversations that really are meaningful to our listeners, and that they can take away and learn, and definitely bring more men into our space.
Yes, come on, guys, don't be scared.
Come on the podcast.
Yes, well, my name is Danielle.
I'm Wendy.
This has been season 3 of Making a Difference in Mental Health. We will see you in season 4. Listen, our motto is making a difference in mental health. We're always striving to make a difference in mental health. We'll see you in season 4.
Be well.